Welcome everyone to the March Hangout. I hope you're all doing well tonight. I'm going to be taking you through Viswanathan Anand's success in the Tal Memorial Tournament that finished just a few days ago. Well, he didn't do so well in the Blitz, but he did superbly in the Rapid. He's apparently quite good at that. He is the world champion. And apparently everything's working. That's good. Excellent. I can see lots of people on the chat. As usual, I'm surrounded by computers. I've got machinery here doing the filming. I've got the chat over here. So here we go. So welcome everyone. Yeah, Anand, another incredible performance. You know, in the past, you know, in his absolute peak, he was the king of speed chess. His record is extraordinary. You know, there wasn't really an official Rapid World Championship for years, but tournaments were put together with the strongest players in the world. And, you know, for over a decade, Vishy reigned supreme in rapid chess. And as we've seen recently, he won again the Rapid World Championship in Saudi Arabia. And for those of you that don't know, he's just won the Tal Memorial Rapid Tournament just a few days ago. And again, it was another brilliant performance. And, you know, the field was incredibly strong. He really showed how strong he is. So greetings everyone. Well, here we go. Thomas Braun, greetings from Germany. I love your work. That's very kind, Thomas. Sushan Acharya, namaste from Nepal. Great to have you. And Rawand Hamid, greeting from Kurdistan. Fantastic. And we have Chessbase India again. So Saga, nice to see you. And Chessbase India is saying he was there. I read your report, Saga. Yeah. He was there in Moscow, and it's unbelievable to see how Vishy played, especially against Grishuk. Of course, I've got to look at the Grishuk game, but actually, I'm going to start with another game that Vishy played, which I think was equally as impressive. And we got Wulu Mulu in Riga. Amazing. Okay. Well, anyway, great to have Chessbase India joining us. That's really nice. And great to see everyone around the world. I know this sounds really a bit trite, but I get a real kick out of the fact that people are joining us from all over the globe. You know, this is just amazing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through Vishy's performance in the Tal Memorial, and I'm going to start off, if I can actually set up a board, with his round one game in the Tal Memorial. Let me just get this on the screen. So just bear with me a moment while I fish around with my windows. As people know that probably who've joined me before, I am very capable of messing up the technology very badly. So hopefully it's going to work this time. So I'm just going to share the screen, and hopefully we'll find a chessboard very soon. Here we go. Hopefully, if you can see a chessboard, let me know. Can you see a chessboard? And we've got why are men in my shoes? That's a great tag from Brighton. Yeah, Brighton, not so far away. I'm in Southwest London. And we've got Mr. Bank in Arizona. Fantastic. And Robert in a small village in the mountains on the Polish-Czech border. That sounds amazing. And where else have we got? Whatever. Great to see you. So first of all, hopefully you can see this board. And let me take you through Vichy's first round game against Daniil Dubov. Now, Dubov is, I think, a really impressive young player. He's very creative, very original, and he's just at that 2700 mark. But I think he's he's a really promising player for the future. And hey, I'm bringing two people together in Brighton, Neftali Garrido and Why Am I in My Shoes, both in Brighton. Well, hey, get together, meet in a cafe, have a game of chess. Brilliant. Okay, so Vichy was white, and he plays bishop b5. I've been a big fan of bishop b5 right since my childhood. I started playing this when I was maybe 13 years old. I'm going to take some of your questions in a second, but just very quickly, I'll say that to Varico, yeah, I will be in Berlin for the end of the candidates tournament. Matchmaker Dan. Okay, fantastic. So here we go. Bishop b5. I really like this move, bishop b5, because it feels to me as though, well, one thing is white is developing very, very quickly. But often you can play positionally, but sometimes very aggressively as well. For example, one of the lines that I had a lot of success with in the past was this, and now this pawn sacrifice, which one doesn't see so much these days, but I can assure you this is extremely dangerous. So, if you're looking for an interesting weapon, that's worth bearing in mind. But the tendency in modern day chess is to take on c6, which is also very interesting. And now here, black obviously has a choice. You can take this way. Well, we'll see what happened to Grishuk later on. And you can also recapture with the b pawn, which is what Dubov did in this game. So Vichy castled. And obviously the pawn structure determines one's strategy here. So rook e1. So for the moment, I mean, rook e1 is obviously a very useful move, pointing at the king. Gabe in LA, good to hear from you. And yeah, take care, and yeah, do take a look later. So rook e1 is obviously a useful move, looking at the king here. It's also waiting to see how black sets up. So for example, if black were to play e5, well, simply c3 and d4 breaking open the center is very good. So after rook e1, Dubov played knight h6, and if e5, if knight f6, then one can push on and play c4 and d4, and this is also very well known, and sometimes shifting the queen over here and queen and bishop h6. So therefore knight h6 is a common move to avoid those problems. And white starts to set up a big center. Now, this is an interesting moment in the game, because d4 is the natural move here, which Vichy didn't play, and it's one of the main lines. But in the past, black has played moves like d6 and f6 and bringing the knight back to f7. But a move which has been very popular recently, which I recommended on one of my DVDs, is d5, which looks a bit anti-positional. But actually, the big idea is to be able to attack these points very, very quickly. And it's quite dynamic. It's a very interesting line. So Vichy plays very cleverly here. He plays h3, and this is a finesse that has become quite popular. And So you're just hanging back for the moment. Now here Dubov played f5, which is a very aggressive move. The point is after d5 that white is going to play d3 and then look to try to exploit the fact that, well, we've got a kind of Nimzo position here. So white wants to try to attack those pawns very quickly, possibly with bishop e3. You can see how weak that pawn on c5 is when the bishop is on the wrong diagonal. And this knight is also very, very much out of play on h6. You know, white can even consider in this kind of position playing c4, so getting that classic Nimzo pawn structure. So h3 is a very clever move. But after d3, in fact, I mean, black does have a way of playing this. c4 is an interesting move, just to give up a pawn. So, for example, like this, and then play with the two bishops and try to use this kingside pawn majority. And black has compensation. This is an interesting way to play the position. So, but still, you know, Vichy likes, likes his knights against bishops, and you know, this is quite an interesting way for white to play. So that's the idea behind playing h3 and just hanging back for a moment. And h3, of course, is a useful move anyway, because sometimes in these positions you want to stop the bishop coming to g4. So white is basically still waiting for black to commit the central pawn structure, which Dubov now starts to do with f5. So e5, and that kind of kills this bishop for the time being. Justin, I like your comment. Justin says, I'm a knight guy too, but I really am good at losing with all kinds of pieces. Well, I tell you, Vichy, it's staggering how often you see Vichy giving up bishops for knights. And here one can play d4, but Vichy played cleverly with d3. And again, it's all about this structure. At some moments, black is probably going to have to play d6, and Vichy maybe wants to fix that pawn on c5. Okay, so this is what happened in the game, d3. In a moment, I'm going to throw it open. When we get to a tricky position, I'm going to throw it open to you to see what you would play next. Bishop f4. So the battle lines are being drawn. If d6, then of course, you're always going to have to watch out for this move. And that, in this particular position, is very painful indeed. That knight is in some trouble. I don't think it really wants to end up on h8. That wouldn't be very clever indeed. So e6, therefore. But, I mean, this kind of looks ugly because now that c-pawn, when d6 is always going to be met by taking, then that c-pawn is kind of for the chop. Neftali Garrido says, knights may not be objectively better than bishops, but they're sure more fun. Well, I think it all depends on the position. So in this particular position, we're about to see how that bishop there is basically targeted throughout this entire game. And you watch what happens to that bishop on c8. So here we go. e6 played and queen d2 from Vichy. This is incredibly important because if black can force through g5 and g4, undermining support for that pawn on e5, then black is going to be doing really well. So queen d2, really necessary to cover g5. Rawand Hamid says it's a difficult position for both sides. Yup, I agree with you. It is a very tricky position, as we're about to see. So h6, once again, wanting to play g5, and therefore h4 is absolutely necessary. So for the moment, Vichy has 4 pieces controlling the g5 square. rook e8. Right. This looks like a very mysterious move. Vichy plays c4, so that is preparing to bring this knight into the game, and also fixing the pawn on c5, and also making sure that that bishop really isn't going anywhere at all. Now, first critical moment in the game. d6. Very, very interesting idea from Dubov. And I'm going to throw it open to you. What would you play here if you were white? White to play. So there will probably be a little delay while I'm waiting for responses. This question, is this a live game? No, for those arriving late, this game was played in the Tal Memorial Tournament, played just a few days ago. And it's between Vishwanathan Anand, playing white, and Daniil Dubov, young Russian player, playing with black. So we have a suggestion of knight c3 from a couple of people. Yeah. Knight c3 was played by Vichy. If this pawn is taken, now we see the idea behind rook e8. e5, and black is going to capture here, and suddenly black has a wonderful pawn center, and then those bishops start to look absolutely wonderful. We've got a suggestion of d4. d4, I get a pretty queasy feeling looking at d4. I suspect I can just take here and then take on e5, if I'm not mistaken. Let's have a look, actually. This is still complicated. Then knight takes. Oh, no, something terrible is going to happen on the back rank. So I can do this, and give a check here, and I don't think that's a happy position for white now that the rook is here. No, that's not good. So let's go back. No, simply here. So knight c3. Sashi says, why was knight a3 rejected in this position? Well, you could play knight a3. I mean, it would be wonderful if this knight could land here, but the problem is there's always going to be bishop a6 to hassle that knight. But also c4 makes a lot of sense positionally, because we are targeting that c5 pawn. Thank you for reminding me, Chess Improvement, about clicking on the outside of the board. I do know that, but in the heat of the moment. Okay, so c4, d6. Somebody said, how is queen c3 in this position? I get a very queasy feeling when I look at queen c3, just because of that pin, but also g5 again. I think that will suddenly destroy white's center. Knight c3 was played by Vichy, and this is exactly what white wants, because white is heading for the c4, the a4 square, looking at c5. So knight c3, and the thing is, if black takes here, then you can see that positionally black is destroyed here. Okay, you might be able to take a pawn, but you can see the point of playing c4 is that that bishop on c8 is absolutely crippled. So this pawn is going to drop. I mean, the bishop on c8 is just terrible. We could maybe play queen e3, maybe knight a4. But once that knight gets into c5, then black is dead positionally, completely dead. Yeah, Thomas Brown says the dogs are out. Yeah, the dogs are out tonight in suburban London. So let's go back. So, okay, Vichy understands this position very well. I mean, I've had this kind of position, this kind of structure from this bishop b5 move so often. As I said, I've been playing this opening since I was a kid, and you'd be amazed how often one reaches this kind of position with basically black is positionally bust here. You know, I spent my teenage years winning this kind of position so often. So here, very interesting position, really tense. What did Dubov play here? Two very interesting ideas, actually. Possible. So we need a plan for black. I know what I'm doing with white. I'm targeting that c5 pawn. I'm sitting on e5. I'm basically sitting on the center. But what does black do? It's all gone very quiet. Yeah, I think it's a much easier position for white to play than black. Well, d5 has been mentioned by a couple of players. And again, this is the kind of position that I've played 1,000 times. It looks like a Nimzo Indian now. And the problem with d5 is that it has no real effect on the center. White will just play knight a4. And this pawn is just dead in the long run. You know, you can hold on to it for a little bit with moves like this, but basically black has zero play here. White is winning this position. You know, you can trade here, but this just makes life easier. I'm assuming that g5 shouldn't be a problem. White has a winning position, is winning. So I'm afraid I'm going to be very harsh and say d5 is a losing move in this position. I really believe that. I've won this kind of position so many times. Let me see. What are the suggestions we have? Well, we've got people still looking at the g5 break, and that is certainly worth bearing in mind. We've also got a couple of suggestions, or we've got certainly one suggestion of a4. a4 makes a lot of sense because the knight is prevented from coming to a4. Now, how white makes progress from here, I think there are various ways. You know, that even that a pawn could be targeted with moves like queen c2 later on. I might start with rook here. I might also even consider later on playing a move like b3, exchange off, and then just put the knight on a4 anyway. That's possible. Yeah, Riaz Ali, I like your suggestion. He suggested distract your opponent by saying behind you and slip an extra queen on a7. You know, put it on a7. I think that might defeat the purpose of an extra queen. So a4 is possible, but I think white still has this grip. The move that was played by Dubov, and it has been suggested by a couple of guys, Ashish Mishra has suggested it, and I think somebody else did as well. Rook a7. This is really creative. Let's see what Dubov has in mind. So knight a4. Now, if black does not react here, then he is bust. He is positionally absolutely bust. By the way, I have a couple of suggestions of people saying play on the b file. You can't really play on the b file. After b3, the position is just closed. Okay, so here's the idea behind rook a7. You have to react quickly, otherwise positionally you are completely lost, because white is going to take here with due preparation and take on c5 at some moment. Maybe even break with d4, perhaps prefaced with this move, or maybe even better, double on the e file and then take on d6. Yes, I think that's probably the best, isn't it? So what did he play? He played G5. This is really interesting. Such a fascinating game, this. I mean, to be honest, I thought this was a more interesting game than Vichy's game against Grishuk, which hopefully I'll have time to show as well. So Vichy has to take this. And knight takes. And knight takes e5. So you can see that already this has had an effect. The 7th rank is opening up. This rook would like to swing over here at some moment. And black has got rid of that very cramping pawn on e5. And now, okay, suggestions for white. You've got to predict Vichy's move again. White play. That gives me time to have a little slurp of tea. Don't be shy. What did the V-man play now? Neftali Garridos doesn't like g5. He said that looks too reckless, opening up the king. Well, Neftali, I think you'll find this is a very clever idea. Okay, we've got lots of suggestions. We got knight c5, bishop e5, rook e3, queen e3. Oh, all kinds of stuff. Queen e2. Okay, well, queen e2. Let's have a very quick look at queen e2. Very interesting. Looking in this direction. I suppose the only thing is that this rook does a pretty good job of covering. So I imagine if, let me see, if I play, let's try and get this right. No, that's tricky. Well, if I play knight g6, oop, I didn't mean to do that. If I play knight g6, because if queen h5, then, well, I think that's just an extra piece because that's going nowhere. So knight g6, so the bishop retreats somewhere. And then bishop f6. I think that should be good. Let's have a look. Queen here. Yeah, I've got rook g7. And I think black's pawn center looks absolutely wonderful. You know, soon this is going to advance with a bit of luck. And then white is in desperate trouble. That's exactly what black would like. So probably not that one. Queen e3 also suggested, well, probably the same thing. Knight g6 looks pretty good to me. So not that one. There was another, we've got so many suggestions. Knight c5 suggested. That's, I wonder, can I play knight g6? No. That could be rather similar to the game. So I think what I'll do is I will press on with the game, and I think, well, no, maybe it doesn't transpose. Let me have a look. Knight c5. Okay, but what if I'm just play very directly, play bishop f6, and then swing this across somehow? It's interesting. Knight c5 is certainly possible. Definitely possible. Let me show you what Vichy did. Vichy likes clarity. He took on e5. We just promote that. Bishop e5. Stay Way says, will you store publishing analysis from today somewhere? Yeah, this program gets uploaded onto the PowerPlay Chess channel, so you can go through it there again if you really want to. Yeah, bishop takes knight, Vichy played. And now, crunch moment. Dubov took with the pawn. He should probably take with the bishop. And then what? Then what should white play now? Any clues? Because this is, I mean, this is a very critical moment. You can see that the 7th rank has opened up. That rook wanting to switch over. Yeah, if knight c5, I'm going to go back to this plan of just playing rook g7. And this is potentially pretty dangerous. It's very dangerous. You know, something like this and come back. Okay, now this knight is on prise, but black has a very strong center now. Maybe just e5 and f4. And then this bishop starts to get into the game. I don't think the pawns matter too much. I have no doubt in this position what Vishy would have played. Remember, Vishy likes clarity. Omkar Chakradeo says he can predict 94 out of 100 Vishy's moves. I'm not sure. Well, okay. Omkar, you haven't been predicting them well so far. Yeah, we've got, well, Bob Dole, that's terribly kind. Just calm down a little bit, but capital letters, very nice. Yeah, we have several players who've suggested rook takes e5. Vishy likes clarity, and that is definitely the best idea. And then just to come back with that knight. So that preempts the rook coming over. And positionally, this is exactly what white wants. You want to be able to take here and sit on those dark squares. And of course, you know, that knight will also come here. But, you know, maybe black should try something like this and, you know, go for an endgame and try to hold this position. This might be the best chance, but I'm absolutely sure that Vishy would have played like this. In any case, in the game, black played d takes e5. And I suspect that Dubov was worried about that exchange sacrifice and thought that this would offer him better chances. So knight f3, bishop f6 was played. And now Dubov is swinging the rook over. So this is still very, very tricky indeed. But Vishy is sitting on those dark squares. If white can control this position, then he's winning. Because look, it's all about that dead bishop on c8. Bishop g5 played. Queen g3. Rook g7. Okay, let's move it out of the way. Subtle maneuvering, but you can see that those attacks haven't really harmed white in any way, because now there's no longer the pressure on the knight on e5. Queen d6. Okay, now what should Vishy do? White play. What are you going to do here? It's all gone quiet again. What are you going to play? Got a suggestion of rook d1. Very, very nice. Rook d1, very steady. Got a suggestion of d4. D4, is that necessary? I think I'll just take it. You could play d4, but it doesn't look necessary to me. Remember, this is a pawn that eventually we just want to take. We don't want to get rid of these weak pawns. Interesting. People want to cash in. This kind of move, I'm afraid, positionally is a dreadful idea. I mean, tactically, it's obviously a mistake as well. But just in principle, you wouldn't want to take that pawn. It opens up this bishop. Excuse me. Rook e2. That's the move. That's what Vichy played. Bishop f6. Excuse me. And doubled. Rook g5. So you can see he's got control over that knight, that square e5. It's very, very powerful. And black cannot shake the grip. And if black can't shake the grip, then this bishop is just dead. So Vichy played queen e3. So slowly but surely he's looking to take here. Yes, to answer your question again, Stay Away, yes, this will be posted on the YouTube channel, yes. It is a classic blockade, I agree, Justin, yeah. And black is bust now. He tried this, but this is hopeless. And now Vichy just has to be very, very careful. But he's still, remember, this is rapid play, so anything can happen. But now Vichy starts to trade down. This is good. And queen e3. But now it's no longer an attack. Okay, white's next move. Yeah, this is a rapid play game, that's right. Okay, what was Vichy's next move? Yeah, well done, Ashish Mishra. Knight c3. Okay, we can't take the pawn on c5, but it doesn't matter. All we need to do is just centralize this one now. You know, white is, after all, 2 pawns up, and that is a very inviting square. And after this, Vichy just played knight e4. And that was the final move of the game. Very, very clean indeed. So you'll notice that white just kept control the whole way. So if bishop takes queen, then knight takes. That's a lot of pieces on prise. And otherwise, if the queen moves, well, let's say here, okay, we can take a pawn. And it's all about that bishop. So now you can see the point of playing the pawns to these squares, c4 and d3. All about controlling that bishop. Fantastic game. So let me just get out of that. Oh, I'm back again. Fantastic. That's good. Nishant Lebaka says, I'm reading Grandmaster Preparation Series by Orgard. Well, congratulations. I hope it's not too deep for you. Yeah, it was a great game. Sushan Acharya says, Danny, your thoughts and suggestions on the King's Indian defense. Do you mean for white or black? My thoughts are, at the highest level, the King's Indian often gets completely dumped. You know, you just need to look at Kramnik's games and you realize that the King's Indian is in big trouble. At lower levels, the King's Indian is an excellent opening. It's, you know, it's a good counter-attacking opening. Anjanaya asks, Sir, I think that preparation is all important, but the one whose focus and patience stays till the end wins the game. Please tell me how to increase focus and patience. I mean, I agree with you. Focus and patience is incredibly important. When I was playing professionally, I taught myself to sit at the board for the entire game. Obviously, now and again, one has to take a comfort break. However, you know, a lot of players get up between moves, you know, to relax or something. But for me, that was a way of losing focus, actually. So I taught myself to sit at the board. I'd make a move. I wouldn't get up after making a move. I used to just sit at the board. And this wasn't just rapid chess. This was, you know, 40 moves in 2 hours. So I would sit at the board for most of the game. And if someone came by and was watching my game, I taught myself not to look up. So basically, I was just looking at the board. That's a simple thing to do. Just don't get up from the board. Sounds simple. Very few people do it. But for me, it's really about a very simple equation. The more you sit at the board, the more you look at the position, the more you're going to see. There you are. Sushan Acharya says, as black. King's Indian is black. Listen, that is a huge topic. I can't just sort of recommend. It's a good counter-attacking opening. You know, what can I say? Monkey Shoulder asks, hi Dan, can you recommend any books for improving beginners? Thanks, mate. Well, one that's books that I've recommended. I'm just looking at my bookshelf at the back, and I've got another bookshelf over. In fact, I'm sort of overflowing with books. There are few books that I recommend on a regular basis. So hang on. I can't find them now. Hang on a second. Well, apart from my DVD series, you know, I think my Power Play DVD series is really good value. And you know, if you're a kind of average club player, let's say, and you're looking to improve, then that's who I aim it at. But as far as books go, if you want to look at endgames, this is very good. Silman's Endgame course and Silman's other books on positional play, excellent. You know, it's always good just to play through games by strong players and see what they're doing, and with decent annotations. I brought out a book a couple of years ago called, of course, naturally I can't find the book in my bookshelf now, but on Test Your Chess with Daniel King, it was called. I should say that each month I produce a newsletter for my patrons, costing $5 a month. That goes to support the channel, and in that I give a test game where I go through in great detail explaining a game by top players. So if you want to become a patron and support the channel, we would very appreciate it. I don't just do this on my own. I have a technical partner that helps me because I'm technically ignorant. So it helps to fund the channel, basically. So if you pay $5 or more, you get a monthly newsletter, and that features one of my test games. So playing through games by strong players with good annotations is a really good way to improve your chess. I agree. Jeremy Silman's books in general, I think, are very, very good. I also like, let me see, Justin says he's got the Zurich 1953 book by Bronstein. Excellent book. Yeah, I really like that. And I like Bronstein's annotations. Dmitry Mikhailov asks, how is the situation in England among young chess players? Do parents bring their children to chess clubs? Schools chess is very strong in England, but once kids get to teenage years, there's a lot of dropout. So actually the professional game, we have pretty good professional players, but there aren't that many coming through. And I think that's to do with the economic situation in the country, actually. There's a lot of pressure on kids to do well academically. And that's when chess takes a back seat. But this is a complex question. Let me see. Someone asked, would I do a live hangout during the candidates going over games in real time? Probably not, no. But during the candidates, I will be doing my usual daily reports. By the way, I'm going to put in my, just a moment, I'm just going to write in the chat. Wait a second, patreon.com. Hang on a second. No. Hang on, folks. Once again, technology and strange computers are messing me up here. No. Yeah. Hopefully you can see that. 1 second. Yeah, if you go to patreon.com and to PowerPlay Chess, on PowerPlay Chess on patreon.com, and that's where you can support the channel, and we would really appreciate it. We put a lot of time and energy into this, and we get to give a lot of content. So if you can afford a monthly contribution, we would really appreciate it. Sushan Acharya recommends Amateur to IM. Amateur IM by Jonathan Hawkins. Yeah, I haven't seen the book, but I've heard it's good. Let me see. Let me take. Some people are really rude out there. I'm going to block them soon if they don't watch it. Justin, I appreciate your contribution. Yeah, the Wooloo Maloo asks, what about glancing another Tile Memorial game quickly? Yeah, well, good call. Let's do that before I get bogged down in questions. I am going to look at another of Vishy's games. So just let me get it on the board. Just a moment. I'm just going to share the screen again, so just bear with me. Here we go. Now, this was played in round 8, and this was, Vishy was doing very well in the tournament, but this is a crunch game. Grishuk, of course, an excellent speed player. The Waloo says, I cannot pronounce my handle either. Fantastic. And once again, we have this bishop b5, and Vishy took here, and Grishuk, instead of recapturing the b pawn, recaptured with the d pawn. Interestingly, again, it's all about restricting this bishop. I'm going to have to dash through this pretty quickly. h3, restricting the bishop. Stopping bishop g4, very important. Because that bishop just gets in the way in a lot of these positions. I'm going to zip through really quickly. This is an important move, just to trade off the two bishops. Now, let me see. Yes, Neftali Gorido says, ooh, this game. Exactly. By the way, there's nothing wrong with casting kingside in this position. That's also a very good way to play. But Vishy goes queenside. But trading the bishops is very important. I mean, objectively, this is not bad for black, but the white has a tremendous initiative, and it's very difficult to counter it. I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go through very, very quickly, if you don't mind. And you can see this is already very unpleasant for black to face. Not that he's worse here, but, just having to defend this position is not easy at all. But Grishuk so far is doing pretty well. Here he probably should have sacrificed the pawn to bring the queen in and to get some counterplay, but okay, this is all said with the benefit of hindsight. He played here. And, well, again, objectively, I think black is still fine. I really like the way Vishy played this, but I think he has the initiative. That's the important thing. I think this whole idea of h4 and putting the queen on h3 is really, really clever, and not easy to spot in this position, actually. I can imagine a lot of players would do something like this and maybe reroute the knight, or something like this, but it's nothing special, actually, and black can later get play on the f file. But this is a really neat idea, very neat indeed. So Vishy doesn't mind giving up a pawn, he just wants the initiative. Rook g5, and now things start to happen. Objectively, black is still okay here. He plays f6. Oh, I've got the moves wrong. I beg your pardon, I've got them wrong. Let's go back here. 23h4 takes. That was right. And now he played, no, he did play rook g5. Queen e6, that's what he played. Rook here. And now f6. Yeah, this, I mean, it's kind of a slightly odd move, actually. I mean, in rapid chess, it's incredibly difficult to understand whether that this is a decent move. I mean, I don't positionally it looks a bit odd to expose the 7th rank, and also the queen is unprotected. That doesn't look great. So anyway, rook g8 played, and now Vichy finished off very, very nicely. And I have to say, as was pointed out in the ChessBase India report, Grishuk was an absolute gentleman because he knew exactly what was coming. He saw what was coming, but he allowed Vichy to play the checkmate on the board, which is really nice. So if rook takes, then obviously white is just the exchange up with a winning position. So pawn takes, and now here's the trick. If pawn takes, then the king comes here. And the queen covers h6. But instead, rook takes f7, really beautiful. If the king moves, we take a queen, so that gets taken. And now this, discovered check, king here, and queen h6 mate, and that was the final position of the game. As I said, Grishuk actually allowed the mate on the board, which was very, very generous of him, actually. He appreciates beauty in chess. Good stuff. So there we go. That was Vichy's victory in the Tom Memorial. He won by a clear point, and against the field, which included Kramnik, Nakamura, Gelfand, Dubov, Nepomniachtchi. I mean, this was a fantastic performance by him. There were simply no weak players in the tournament, and to win by a clear point, absolute class. Right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Do watch out for my candidates reports that will be after each game. It's going to be an amazing tournament. I think it's completely wide open. And well, I'm just really looking forward to it. So look out for that. And as I said, if you want to support us on Patreon, patreon.com, we would really appreciate it. Okay, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your comments, and see you later. Bye now.